My dear listeners, this is an original sci-fi story I wrote for you. If you'd like to support me, just subscribe to the channel. It really helps the growth. The training spear whistled through the air and slammed into the dirt 2 meters left of the target. The entire circle of young Vreksha warriors froze. Then the laughter started, deep, clicking, cruel. Blind whelp, one of the older cubs bellowed. You couldn't hit a mountain if it bit you. The smallest cub, barely 7 standard years old, stood trembling in the center of the ring. His 4 eyes, 2 primary, 2 inner, squinted hard at the blurred wooden post 30 paces away. To him, it was only a gray smudge against green jungle. He had missed every throw, every single one. The elders had already decided he would never be a warrior. He would be sent to the rear caves to sharpen blades and carry water, forever marked as weak. He had been born this way. No dramatic rockslide, no battle wound. Just the quiet cruelty of genetics. Inner eyes that never fully developed, vision forever soft and distant. The healers had examined him at hatching and shaken their heads. Some bloodlines carry the flaw, they said. It cannot be mended. Tears burned behind those imperfect eyes, but he refused to let them fall. Vreksha did not cry. From the edge of the training ground, where he had been quietly repairing a cracked plasma rifle, the human watched the whole thing. His name was Dylan Edwards. The Vreksha tolerated him only because he could fix their broken weapons better than any of their own smiths. They called his species primitive and laughed at his soft skin and lack of claws, but they brought him every bent blade and jammed rifle anyway. He lived in a small hut at the edge of the camp, surrounded by scrap, lenses, and tools no one else understood. Dylan set the rifle down and walked straight into the circle. The laughter died instantly. The war leader's son snarled, "This is not your place, softskin." Dylan ignored him. He crouched in front of the small cub, who was still staring at the blurry target with hopeless focus. "Hey, kid," Dylan said softly in passable Vreksha. "You're not missing because you're weak. You're missing because you literally can't see it. Am I right?" The cub's mandibles clicked once in surprise. No adult had ever spoken to him like that. Dylan held up 2 fingers. "How many?" The cub squinted harder. 3. Dylan nodded. "Thought so." He glanced at the watching warriors. "Give me 1 hour with him, then test him again." The war leader's son laughed. 1 hour? You think your primitive tricks can fix what our blood itself could not? He was born defective. His inner eyes never formed properly. It is written in his lineage. Nothing can be done. Dylan stood up, eyes calm. 1 hour. They let him take the cub only because they were curious how badly the human would fail. In the dim light of Dylan's hut, the boy sat on a crate while the human worked. Scraps of shattered rifle scopes, polished titanium from broken barrels, and thin sheets of transparent armor plating lay across the workbench. Dylan had been saving the clearest pieces for months, never sure what he would need them for. "Close your outer eyes," Dylan said. "Tell me what you see when I hold this up." He lifted a small shard of focusing lens. "Nothing but light," the cub answered honestly. "Everything is fog." Dylan smiled. "That's about to change." For the next 50 minutes, the human worked in silence, grinding, shaping, bending metal with careful hands. He used a tiny plasma cutter from his toolbox and a jeweler's loop he had carried from Earth. The cub watched every movement, fascinated. No Vreksha healer had ever taken this much time for a cub born flawed. Finally, Dylan held up the finished object. 2 perfectly shaped lenses, ground to the exact prescription he had estimated from the boy's reactions, sat in a lightweight frame made from rifle stock and padded with soft leather scraps. Simple, primitive, human. "Put these on." The cub hesitated, then slid the device over his head. The world snapped into razor focus. He gasped. The grain of the wooden table became individual fibers. The tiny scratches on Dylan's knife were suddenly visible. Outside the hut window, he could see individual leaves on the jungle trees 50 meters away. Veins, dewdrops, everything. For the first time in his 7 years of life, the world was sharp, vivid, real. Tears finally fell. This time he did not stop them. Dylan placed a hand on the cub's shoulder. Those are called glasses. On my world, even cubs born unable to see clearly get them. No shame, just better eyes. The boy stood up slowly, turning in circles, staring at everything. He picked up a tiny screw from the floor that he had never been able to see before. I can see the edge of the blade marks on your tools. I can see the pulse in your neck. I can see. He stopped, overwhelmed. Dylan grinned. Go show them. The training ground had not emptied. Every warrior, young and old, waited to mock the human's failure. The cub stepped out of the hut wearing the strange twin circles over his eyes. Silence fell like a hammer. The war leader's son sneered. Still wearing toys? Born weakling? The cub picked up a spear, weighed it once, and threw. The spear flew straight as a laser and buried itself dead center in the target, splitting the wooden post with a crack that echoed across the camp. Another spear. Another perfect hit. A third, thrown so fast the older cubs barely saw the motion. The laughter died in every throat. The war leader himself pushed through the crowd. His massive frame loomed over the small boy. Remove those things. The cub took the glasses off for a moment. The world blurred again into the familiar fog he had known since hatching. He put them back on. The world sharpened instantly. I will not, he said quietly. With these I see what you see. Better. I see the wind moving the grass before the throw. I see the tremor in your shoulder when you mock what the bloodline gave me. Gasps rippled through the warriors. The war leader stared at the human standing calmly behind the cub. His mandibles clicked slowly. You, a soft skin with no claws, no armor, no honor blades. You gave sight to one born without it? Dylan shrugged. I fix things. Weapons, rifles, eyes. Same principle. The war leader reached out one massive claw and gently touched the frame of the glasses. Our healers said it was impossible. Our lineage said weakness is carried in the seed. And you made this in 1 hour with scrap from our broken guns. He turned to the entire camp. This cub will train with the rest. No more talk of born weakness. And every young one who hatches with poor sight will come to the human. He looked back at Dylan, something like awe in his 4 eyes. You are primitive. Your species has no natural weapons, no venom, no scales. Yet you gave one of our own the gift our own blood denied him. Explain this. Dylan met the war leader's gaze without flinching. Because on my world we decided a long time ago that no child should be left behind just because they were born different. We fix what nature didn't get right. That's our strength. The cub, now standing taller than he ever had, looked up at the human with all 4 eyes wide and clear. Thank you, he whispered in perfect, focused Vreksha. Then he turned and threw one more spear. It split the previous one down the middle. The entire camp erupted. Not in laughter this time, but in the deep, rumbling cheer reserved for new warriors. From that day forward, the cub was never called blind whelp or born weak again. They called him Clearsight, and every evening, when the sun set over the jungle, the warriors would watch the small figure with the strange twin circles on his face lead the training runs, faster, sharper, and more deadly than any of them had been at his age. All because one primitive human, living among them only to fix broken weapons, had looked at a cub born defective and decided to fix something far more important than any rifle. He had fixed a future.